Did you know that Hitler was also the Führer when it came to taking drugs? My name's Norman Ohler. I wrote a book called Blitzed, and it's about the massive use, or rather abuse, of drugs in Nazi Germany. Stage 1 is from 1936 to 41. He was basically taking vitamins and glucose. When he met Morell in 1936, who quickly became his personal physician, and Morell said, "I can give you vitamin injections and you immediately will feel amazing and you will never get a cold," Hitler thought, "This is my man." He woke up and he rolled back the sleeve of his pajama, and Morell came in and gave him a vitamin injection and a glucose injection, and Hitler had had his breakfast. Stage 2 started in the fall of 1941 when the war against Russia turned bad, and he started to take lots of hormones and steroids and barbiturates. He had high fever and diarrhea, so he was quite sick. They called it the Russian flu. For the first time, he got hormone injections from animals, pig liver extracts, and it actually worked. He was back in the briefing the next day, and I mean, today we would say these are doping agents. Stage 3 started in the summer of 1943, and it is when he was turning to very hard drugs. In July of 43, he had a decisive meeting with Mussolini because Mussolini wanted to leave with Italy the evil Axis. He wanted to leave, and Hitler was very depressed about that. And Morell, on that day in July, for the first time used a drug called Eukodal, which is a half-synthetic opiate, an opioid, a pharmacological cousin of heroin, you could say, but with a much stronger euphoric momentum to it. And after a good shot of Eukodal, you feel extremely good. And this is exactly what happened to Hitler. And there's reports from that meeting with Mussolini where he just didn't stop talking and was in such a euphoric mood that he easily convinced Mussolini to stay on board. Hitler takes cocaine on over 50 occasions, and not a soft dosage of cocaine. I mean, this is pure stuff that the SS delivered. So at times he got cocaine and Eukodal in a period of a few hours, which in drug terms would be called the speedball. He used the drugs to keep his convictions that he formed when he wasn't already on drugs. He just left reality at a point when he should have realized that his delusional ideas of beating the whole world was what they were, namely delusional and totally irrational and not in touch with reality at all.
All right, that was a little history segment that we had right there. It's world politics. We'll talk about a little bit of political issues, see if anybody joins us, and it might be a short version or it might be the full hour. We'll see what goes on, depending on who comes into the office and all along those lines. FBI has released the images of a person of interest and announced a $100,000 reward amid the manhunt for the person that assassinated Charlie Kirk. So definitely we need to do better. A shaky in Washington struggles to come together after Kirk's death. And I had read somewhere in another report that Alexandria Ortiz was supposed to be coming to North Carolina, but because of security concerns of her own, she decided not to come to this particular state. I think that was supposed to be over the weekend that she was supposed to be coming here. But like I said, she's decided not to come to this area and was saying that she was doing that out of respect for what happened to Charlie Kirk and also concern for her own safety as well. As a matter of fact, the NBC News says people are scared to death. Members of Congress fear for their safety after the Charlie Kirk assassination and all along those lines. And Brazil's Supreme Court finds Bolsonaro guilty of plotting a military coup. So Brazil's Supreme Court votes to convict the ex-president Bolsonaro of a coup plot. So majority in Brazil's Supreme Court has voted to convict Bolsonaro for this attempted coup and all along those lines. And Nadine Menendez, the wife of the ex-New Jersey senator, has been sentenced to 4.5 years in prison. So that's something else that is being reported in the news as well. In a little bit, I'll be bringing Sasha Starr up and Rick Rosner and seeing what they've got going on in their world and definitely what's happening in their thoughts and all along those lines, because a lot's going on as Qatar bombing tests the limits of the Trump Netanyahu alliance. So definitely there was even a report on CNN about inside Israel's operation to kill Hamas leaders in Qatar. And apparently the Israeli strikes in Qatar, according to the Washington Post, are scrambling Trump's ceasefire plans. And the FBI holds a news conference on the Charlie Kirk shooting. But like I said, they're still looking for that particular shooter and all along those lines. So he's still out at large and all along those lines. And Belarus pardoned scores of prisoners at the request of Trump, Lukashenko says. So they freed 52 political prisoners, including foreigners, after the visit by the U.S. delegations. And after Russian drones were downed in Poland, what does triggering NATO Article 4 mean? So NATO's first drone battle pits million-dollar jets against cheap drones and all along those lines. But Poland is pursuing stronger military agenda after the Russian drone incursion. So that is definitely something that folks are talking about as well. And of course, a lot of folks are paying attention to Gaza City as well as what's going on just in general in Israel. And from parliament to luxury hotels, Nepal's protest movement is targeted the elite. A parliament in flames, a leader toppled. Nepal's Gen Z protesters ask what comes next. So we'll see whether I had heard earlier this morning that they might be having an alliance with the military and all along those lines. And Russia urges Poland to reopen the Belarus border. So Poland sends 40,000 troops to the border amid the Russian tensions, and the Russia-Belarus military drills start this week. So we'll see how these drills play out as well. And scientists link hundreds of severe heat waves to fossil fuel producers' pollution. Let me get to some of the things happening in the U.S., and then I'll bring in my good friends Rick Rosner and Sasha Starr and see what they've got going on in their world. So for Trump, Charlie Kirk is a deeply personal loss and everything. And I understand he's going to be giving him the Presidential Medal of Freedom and all of those lines posthumously. So he's going to do that. He announced that earlier. And Nadine Menendez, like I said, the wife of the Senate, has been sentenced to 4.5 years for the bribery scheme. So definitely we'll see how this all goes as well. And South Korea workers detained in an immigration raid leave Atlanta and head home. So South Korea's president says Georgia ICE raid could have considerable impact on direct U.S. investment from his country. So we'll see how this impacts folks in that sentence. And President Trump and the First Lady marked 9/11 with solemn vow to never forget. So definitely that is something that is going on as the Trump administration and other lawmakers remembered 9/11. And all in that way. So definitely, and they're saying the student who shot 2 others at the Colorado school was radicalized, and this is at the Evergreen High School shooting, and they're definitely crediting the students and staff for saving lives in that particular case. And since Columbine in 1999, Colorado has been continued to be scarred by gun violence. And lockdowns have been lifted at Southern University. Classes and campus activities were canceled through the weekend. Chilling reminder, multiple historical Black universities, and that's what I was talking about in the news, have been under lockdown after receiving several threats. So Alabama State University canceled classes Thursday after the threats to the campus, and potential threats triggered lockdowns at several HBCUs across the South. So definitely sounds like a lot of talk of violence in a lot of different ways and all along those ways. So, and the judge cuts off a rambling opening statement from would-be Trump assassin who is representing himself. So this is, in that case, the jury trial of Ryan Roth, the man accused of trying to kill Trump, begins in Florida. So judge stops the meandering trial argument from the man accused of trying to kill President Trump. And the Secret Service agent testifies he came within 5 feet of alleged would-be Trump assassin. like I said, we'll bring in Rick Rosner, who talked about what he had been doing on that fateful day on 9/11 and all along those lines. But we didn't hear from Sasha, and I don't know whether Sasha was in Russia on that particular day, or if he was in the Soviet Union, or if he was back in Canada, since that was 24 years ago. And I'm not sure of all of Sasha's life timeline and everything. So, what were you doing on 9/11 when that attack took place?
On 9/11, I was in London, England,
Okay.
with two friends. We were flying from Poland to Canada. It was a stopover in London. And when we were about to go to board the plane flight to Canada, I phoned my wife and told her that we are about to board the plane. And she told me that you can't imagine what's happening. The Manhattan is being destroyed. There are buildings are falling down, and I couldn't believe what she told me. But I've looked and figured out something interesting that all U.S. headed planes, there were no boarding. Everything was delayed.
Yeah.
Now, Canadian plane, which we were supposed to fly, they didn't change the sign. They were still boarding, but there were no people. And when after talking to my wife, I figured out what's happening. I was told that without any explanations why, but that is being delayed temporarily. Okay, now figuring out what she told me, my wife, and what's happening at the airport, we immediately secured a beautiful townhouse right in the center of London uh, for a couple of days. What happened actually is that we ended staying there for 5 days,
Right.
and the weather was beautiful. Buckingham Palace was open, which we visited. So we had relatively good time under the circumstances in London, which I vividly remember. And on the sixth day, finally, we boarded the plane to Canada. It was the first available plane, and we flew and landed back in Toronto.
Mm.
That's my story about 9/11. Of course, we were watching on television all the latest news, what was happening, and so on. That's my story.
That makes sense. Everything. Hey, Rick, you mentioned earlier that there was a lot of conspiracy theories when we were talking about World Edition, and I do remember those theories because they hit the Pentagon, they hit New York, which is the center of trade, and they hit a couple of other things. So people are always theorizing that it was a attempt to hit what is the center of American industries.
This was 24 years ago. I think we should talk more about what's happening in the past couple days.
Right.
There's plenty of conspiracies with that too. 24 years ago, I was talking to my writing partner. We were discussing, whether we were going into work, and he laughed at me saying, "Well, obviously not. The whole country's going to shut down," which is pretty much true for a couple days.
Yeah.
And we had to fly for work, and I shaved my beard because there was a lot of suspicion of beardy-looking, Semitic-looking individuals. So I just trimmed it way back. Today, I'm shopping for knives right now, California legal knives. Because I'm on Twitter. And there is a lot of talk from the right-wing cosplayers, who are playing at being the hard men, the tough men. Somebody says Charlie Kirk was a moderate, a friendly guy. And then other people say, no, he was an extremist and he pushed extremist positions. Like one position he had a lot of racist positions. One is he said that blacks would be better under slavery because then they'd be stopped from committing more crimes. And that's not a moderate voice. That's a full-on racist voice. But when people go on Twitter and they say he was a racist, they say, no, you don't know you don't know what's coming. I've seen so many tweets from people saying, you don't know what's coming. So I'm not going to spend $80 on a fancy knife, but I might, spend $250 at Harbor Freight on a box cutter, because maybe I don't know what's coming.
What are they speculating is coming? Are they speculating?
Well, they're talking about that there's going to be, they're talking about that, oh, you shoot us. Well, guess what, pal? We're the ones with all the guns. And there's a lot of bullshit there, but it's hard to tell the difference between, some bullshitter in his parents' basement and somebody who's got a dozen guns and might, if sufficiently encouraged, might go out and look for some, liberal to take a shot at.
Yeah, that's true and everything. You never know what folks may do at this day and time. And then you got that shooting that took place in your old area of Colorado, which is the school shooting.
Yeah, there was a mass grocery store shooting a mile from where I grew up. I mean, I guess, I don't know if Colorado has more than its share of mass shootings, but it's one of those hybrid, urban rural states where you got a few blue dots. You got Aspen and Boulder and Denver. And then most of the rest of the state is farms and ranches and mountains, and it's red. And, you got a bunch of frickin' people with guns. Those aren't the people who are shooting schools up and grocery stores up. Ranchers have guns for ranching, farming purposes, or because they like guns, but they're not mass shooters. It's crazy. No, they're crazy idiots who, they're not coming off a ranch. They're coming on. They didn't like high school, so they're going back to a high school and shooting it up.
Well, Duke, which is around the corner from me, I probably, if I was to leave out of this apartment, could get there in about 2 or 3 minutes, if that, and everything along those lines. Well, maybe a little bit longer if I'm walking. But that being said, they are saying that Jerry Seinfeld was here yesterday, and I actually saw some of the people that had those signs at one of our corner streets and everything. But he's comparing the Free Palestine movement to the KKK. So apparently these are some comments he made at an event.
Jerry Seinfeld leans pretty strongly in favor of Israel, and is not apologetic about it.
Yeah, he says because
and Hamas. I mean, so Hamas is a terrorist organization. They killed in cold blood 1,200 Israelis on October 7th, 2023. They came in. They've been plotting it for months. They came in. They slaughtered a ton of people. They're bad guys. They're
definitely bad. They're definitely bad guys. But even the Jewish lawmaker who followed Jerry Seinfeld on stage doing his appearance, which was actually on 2 days ago on Tuesday, is decrying the comedian's comment in which he said pro-Palestinian protesters were worse than the KKK and everything.
Well, there's a mix of people in the among pro-Palestinian protesters.
Right.
There's at any protester, there are people who don't know shit about what they're protesting for or against. They read an article or they read a couple things online and they're out there and they're yelling and they don't know the background. Like frickin' Sasha knows frickin' 70, 100 years. I mean, he has decades and decades of looking at Israel and looking at the whole world. Sasha knows stuff.
Yeah,
Palestinians protesters are way much worse than Ku Klux Klan, as you said before, because that was limited to United States of America. It was nowhere else in the world. The Palestinian stuff is all around the world, almost in any country. And therefore, it's so much more dangerous than Triple K. However, Israel is doing a funny thing. They do what is interest of Israel and no one else. Why? At this time, there is no any world order. There are no rules. It's a rule of the strongest. And Israel happened to be by far the strongest in that region. No one can touch Israel. No Arab country, no Muslim country, nobody, even all of them put together, they cannot touch Israel. Israel won every and all wars against Arab countries. 2, 3, 5 together, doesn't matter. If 6 days war, which was happening in 1967, if it would happen today, it wouldn't be 6 days war, it would be 6 hours war, because Israel would destroy all of these countries together, and there would be nothing left. They would be annihilated. Same thing will happen with Gaza. Same thing with Qatar. Same thing everywhere. They have to get on their knees, ask for forgiveness, release all the hostages. That's the only way how this Gaza.
Sasha, I keep telling you, and I'm going to keep saying it again and again. I think Rick has told you this, and several other people have told you this as well. Most people condemn Hamas throughout the world and everything like that, and not everybody that is Palestinian or Arab is a supporter of Hamas and everything like that. They are actually having a summit later on today in Qatar. I believe that was said that they're having that meeting later today to see how they will react and everything like that. So
all right. So the one thing with Israel is the rest of the Mideast, most of the Mideast is going to hate Israel no matter what it does. So Israel does what it wants. But I mean, you do have to make a point in that Netanyahu's aligned with the farthest right people in government, and so they're pretty dickish. But when you talk about protests, 60% at a protest of the people at a protest couldn't pass a quiz about what they're freaking protesting.
Well, like I said, it was a small protest that I saw, and I was literally on the bus. I didn't see all of the protesters, but they were on the corner of one of the Duke streets and everything like that, and it was mostly adults and older adults.
All right, who were protesting.
And this is in a liberal town like Durham, but these were not college kids. These were not transplants, because I actually recognize some of the faces. They were people from this town that had a issue with the concerns of what Israel is doing and everything. And there are some fairly moderate, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but what I'm hearing, people tell me that Morocco, which is an Arab country, as a matter of fact, I know that our show afterwards, after this, that Coco does, she's got friends there, she's visited there and performed there several times, that's considered relatively moderate. Qatar is considered relatively moderate. Algeria is considered relatively moderate. So there are several countries, even Egypt back in the day was considered relatively moderate. So there are several
good questions. These protesters, adults, what you are talking about.
Yeah, they were adults.
You saw them, and what was the time of the day that you saw them?
I was going to work, so it was in the evening time. It was around 5 o'clock. It was work time.
5 o'clock. So people, supposedly, most of them must work or do something for a living, I would imagine.
Maybe I mean, I said they were older, so they could have even been retired. Some of them were about my dad's
age.
Retired.
Okay.
Right. Some of them were about my dad's age.
Their pensions, and instead of going home, prepare dinner, watch TV, do something useful, they were protesting. Of what?
They were protesting. What? They were pro-Palestine, and they wanted a Palestinian state. From what I could see of the signs and everything, and I, like I said, I only got a brief glance. I was on a bus, so I did not get a chance to talk to them.
Tell you, they are being paid for going there and protest.
No, otherwise, I know some of these folks. They were not being paid. Like I said, I can't speak for Atlanta. I can't speak for New York. They were not being paid.
August, they're all being paid, and if not, they're complete idiots. And you know,
that's your opinion. I know some people, and maybe we'll bring them on the show and everything like that, that are protesting for their various reasons. And like I said, we've had folks of different backgrounds that have their reason for protesting, whether it's a number of other protests. And like I said, there have been protests around even Ireland back in the day and everything. So people have reasons for protesting.
For these protesters, I don't give a damn about them. And Israel is doing as the strongest country in that region. They're going to do anything, whatever they want. take example of
Well, like I said, we make
Russia is strong country, big country. It's doing everything. It's sending drones to Poland. It attacks Ukraine. It attacks almost anybody in that region. Why? Because behind Russia is China, is North Korea. They don't give a damn about this old Donald Trump. And he's probably senile. If Putin tells him for 8 months, just get lost, don't bother me anymore. And I'm going to call Putin. I'm going to talk to him. Oh, my God. What a moron.
Well, I mean, that comes back to Rick's point. We don't know where BRICS falls on even the Israel point, because there are some people that think that Netanyahu is too far to the right and all along those lines. And there are people that are upset, even in Israel, at the government of Netanyahu. And there's people that say that he wants the wars to continue so that he can stay in power. So that theory has been out there
It
for
doesn't
a number of
matter.
years.
Netanyahu is a real leader of Israel that Israel hadn't had for a long time. It was a time when there was Golda Meir. It was a good time of Moshe Dayan. It was a time of Shimon Peres and others. And Netanyahu today is by far the best leader Israel can have. And he's doing absolutely fantastic job to protecting Israel.
But there are people who
Let
think
me say some stuff.
Go ahead.
So, Hamas is doing Netanyahu a huge favor in really refusing to negotiate. If they surrendered and if they just gave up and they gave up the hostages, Netanyahu, the war might end and Netanyahu might be in danger of being voted out of office.
Right.
This is from the Jerusalem Post yesterday. Netanyahu trial, testimony hearing opens to public after starting behind closed doors. This is a trial. He's been one of his many trials for corruption and conflict of interest. So he's been going on trial for years and years. It's kind of like Trump, but as long as the war goes on, he's not going to leave office, and he can't really be prosecuted, even though there are trials going on. So the longer Hamas holds out, and they may hold out forever, because you can kill them and they will replenish their numbers. A lot of their people, as we saw with Qatar, are not even in the country to be killed by Israel. So this could go on for quite a while.
Hey, Rick, along those same lines, there are, you mentioned conspiracy theories. I'm sure that there will be some conspiracy theories out there that will ask whether the shooter actually did not come from the left, but came from the right and everything. Because there is this notion that one of the ways to keep yourself in power is to create situations that create markets. So,
I mean, most conspiracy theories turn out to be bullshit.
True.
Now, the latest thing to come out, some source, the Wall Street Journal said that they found the gun used
they
to
did say
kill,
that. No.
And then they found bullets that had Antifa and anti-transsexual messages engraved in the bullets. And then they kind of, some other source said, no, that doesn't. But
that doesn't make any sense, because wasn't he speaking about the trans issue when he was speaking? Because I thought he was speaking about against the trans at the time he was speaking.
But we don't know if that bullet stuff is true. And what do you mean engraved? Did somebody take a knife and take the bullet and cut messages into the bullet? Is that what they're saying? We don't know. Because after that initial report, we heard nothing more except somebody else saying that's not what we heard. So there's a lot of bullshit flying around right now. We won't know.
Speaking of BS and everything like that, and like I said, I did not know the man. He's got a decent following. Actually, in some of our shows, we have a greater following than him and everything like that. But Jim Peters, I did do some study on him, and he is a conspiracy theorist and very much into UFOs and everything like that. So I was just wondering if you watched any more of the show of his, other than him talking to y'all about Ukraine, because he has some interesting theories. Rick, he's even got a guy that comes on regularly that is a former hustler publisher. He was part of the Hustler staff, so he has stories about the days of Hustler and everything like that on the show that Sasha was on. So I was just wondering, I know he talked to you about possibly doing a music show and everything, but I just wondered if you listened to any of his other shows and your thoughts.
I don't listen to anything. I don't listen to podcasts. I don't listen. When I get in my car, I listen to the stand-up comedian stations because I still try to be funny sometimes, and I like to listen to other people's comedy routines. And it makes me less crazy than listening to the frickin' news.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was watching a little bit of a whole discussion around sexism and whether feminism was good or bad for the industry on a podcast called Whatever. And they actually do longer podcasts than we do. I think that one of their podcasts, and I did not listen to it all, was like about a 5-hour discussion. And it featured the person that I think Shaquille mentioned. Right, that is like the super liberal person.
What would be good for the industry is anybody making anything. Right now, nobody's buying anything. Right. I know 2 guys who make documentaries, and they are desperate and frustrated that production is down 40% since the strike in Los Angeles, and they're already taken a hit because of COVID. And the streaming services have realized they don't have to spend as much money as they were in 2020 to make content. In 2018, 2019, 20, they were spending billions and billions of bucks trying to build a competitive moat, particularly Netflix. Netflix thought it could be the main streaming service, the way nobody goes to any place but Google to do a search. Netflix was trying to be the Google of streaming, and they spent crazy amounts. They made a ton of stuff.
Well, I'll tell you the state of documentaries after I finish judging the documentary film festival, because I've done that before. I think I did it 1 year in the past, but they've already asked me to judge again. So I'll get to see a lot of these documentaries from around the world and what their content is like over the next week or two and everything like that. Because I'm actually just got an email from them as to the rules and regulations as to how we're supposed to grade them and score them and all along those lines. And then I'll learn more as to what is out there and be able to come back.
Yeah, talk to people, ask them how easy and how long it took them to sell, to get money, to make the doc, and could they get distribution. It's a frickin' tough time. And feminism, it doesn't matter, feminism, not feminism. What matters is, can you get your project made?
Yeah, well, like I said, and the things that I mentioned earlier, and I'll just bring it up once again, just so folks know what I was talking about on the news, but at least 5 historically HBCUs, which is historically Black colleges and universities, were locked down today, with some citing terroristic threats, and that could be a response from the Charlie Kirk thing and everything, because Clark University, Atlanta University issued a shelter-in-place order Thursday as campus police and the Atlanta Police Department investigated threats made to the campus, and even Jasmine Crockett, the representative, says, I'm not sure why or how they became a target today, but it is not okay.
All it takes is one fake right-wing tough guy with a burner phone, makes one phone call, shuts down a campus. Sasha has something to say.
Yeah, I got something to say before I leave. I would like to ask you, are you both watching Netflix?
Yeah, every day.
I don't watch it that much. I see stuff every once in a while, but not often.
Okay, then I'll ask you, Rick. Have you ever seen the documentary? No, it's not documentary. It's made by Netflix. There are 4 seasons by show of the name Fauda.
Maybe is that? I'm looking it up right now. Fauda.
Yeah, correct.
I've seen some of it, but I've only seen like an episode and a half, and it's about what, a team of people fighting terrorists, right?
Well, they're fighting, and they are. It's a scene from the real life of a counter-terrorist unit. There are 4 seasons, and what's interesting in this series, that they show their everyday life with their families. They showed Arabs with their lives, with their families, and how they interact, and some Arabs. They're talking when I talk about Arabs, you may call them Palestinians or whatever, but I don't know really what's the difference between Arabs and Palestinians. They all speak the same language, and they have the same religion or so. So I really don't know. Maybe somebody will explain to me.
Well, one, they don't all have the same religion, and two, they don't all speak the same language. There are several languages.
I watched a little bit of it. I
What
think
language do they speak then?
There are several languages spoken in the Arab countries and everything like that. I don't remember all of them, but I know that there are several different languages, and there are definitely several types of Arabs, and there are several types of Muslims and everything. There's Sunnis and Shiites, which you should already know, and
No,
everything.
no, Mark. I'm talking about Arabs. Arabs are all.
They're not monolithic. Nobody is
No,
monolithic.
but they all speak Arabic. What other language they can speak? It's Arabic.
I got to
They
go
can
in a
speak.
couple
They
minutes.
can speak
but-
English. They can speak a number of other languages. Some of them come
I
from
can
other
speak
countries.
English
In
too.
Morocco, some of them speak French, so they can speak a number of
They can
languages.
speak 700 languages, but their mother tongue is Arabic. That's
So anyway, I got to go in a couple minutes. I watched a little bit of Fauda, but I think it made me too. It was too
watch
tense.
watch it a little bit.
All right,
because
I
think
watched the one
that
where
any
the
person who is discussing the Israeli-Arab issues, they must go and see Fauda all seasons, and only then you can discuss it.
Well, there are several movies that are like that. Like I said, Full Frame.
No, I'm talking
you
about
guys.
one. I'm talking
No,
about
there are
one
several that
very
have covered
important
the
movie.
Arab and the
Fauda.
Israel situation.
Mark, watch it. Okay, thanks. I have to go.
Look, I've worked in the documentary field for a number of years, so there are several of them. Sasha, I'll watch
I
that one,
don't
but I'm
care
saying there's
about several
others that will
movies
give you
that
the
you're
story of
watching.
what's going
I'm telling you about one movie, Fauda. Go watch it, and then you'll discuss this issue. Okay, thanks a lot. Have to go. Bye-bye.
Like I said, there are several things that are out there that folks can discuss and all along those lines. And there are a variety of languages as well. As a matter of fact, just to let folks know, because I looked at varieties of Arabic, and even that has a variety. Arabic is a Semitic language with the Afro-Asiatic family that originated in the Arabian Peninsula. There are considerable variations from region to region with degrees of multiple intelligibility. That are often related to geographical distance, and some that are ability attested to those modern variants can be found in the ancient Arabic dialects in the East. So like I said, there are a variety of ways that people speak and all along those lines. So this whole notion of people being monolithic is something we should never be doing on a regular basis and everything like that. But that's just my opinion. But like I said, others have other opinions and all along those lines, and they are entitled to their opinions. But yeah, there's definitely some monolithic conversations that we've been having on this particular station and along those lines. But definitely there are a number of folks that speak a variety of languages throughout the Middle East and all along. Keep that in mind. And people are not all one sort or one type of people in any country. Anywhere in the world, even in the United States, we got people that are from the South, we got people that are from the Northeast, and they all speak different dialects and different styles of things in that space. So just keep that in mind when you think about the world and all along those lines. But opinions of what they think and everything like that. But I'll check out his movie, but I'll also recommend some other movies, and I'll bring those to your attention. I do remember there were several movies that were at Full Frame that dealt with the Arab conflict, dealt with Israel, dealt with the Middle East, dealt with a number of other things as well. So like I said, one movie does not tell a story and everything like that. So I'm going to get on out of here. We're going to wrap it up, and just keep that in mind as you study any country. Be sure to study the people and realize that we are all a diverse folks, no matter where we are and everything like that. And of course, we'll be bringing in guests, including some guests from some of these countries. I'm hoping to get some folks in from some of the Arab nations. I know that even on my show, I had one that was a Christian that was doing some Christian kind of like recruiting and doing some things in that space that was on the online dinner party. Maybe it was the radio show with Mark Leaks some years ago and everything like that. So we do know that there are a variety of people there and everything like that. So definitely keep that in mind. And like I said, I'll bring you some things to your attention that will be different types of films and different types of conversations and all along those lines. So definitely always good to do your due research, and that's for everybody, including our listeners and all along those lines. But right now, get ready to get out of here. We may bring up, I think I'll just bring up a couple of quick commercials, and then we'll get ready to get out of here, and we'll wrap this show up in a few minutes since they decided to vacate and everything like that. But we'll get ready to have some more conversations on world politics on Tuesday. And of course, World Edition will be coming your way on tomorrow, along with the Ukraine, Russia, China show. But right now, let's get on out of here as we check out these quick commercials about some other things. And then we got some new shows coming up, including Ask the Experts in the near future. But check this out.